As Africans, we've always communicated orally, like verbally. Stories have gone down from generation to generation through proverbs, stories. I have fond memories sitting around like a fireplace, having conversations with your parents, with your grandparents. And traditionally, that's how we've communicated. And now in the workplace, we are faced with having to improve our written communication. This can cause some stress, some anxiety around how to communicate. Within like the past, since COVID hit, tools like Slack, Teams, Google Hangouts, they've really become popular in terms of workplace communication. Some of these tools can cause anxiety. And I label it Slackxiety, which is a feeling of feeling very overwhelmed by just the thought of going into these instant messages for work. So how do I know I have Slack anxiety? The first thing is that you feel a sense of being overwhelmed. It's Monday and you're like, oh shit, I don't even want to look at my Slack. I probably have 65 messages. Where do I begin? So just that feeling of being overwhelmed by the thought of going into a Slack message is a sign that you probably don't have a healthy relationship with Slack. The second one is you have a fear of missing out. And this kind of looks like you're scrolling through Slack when you're on leave. You're scrolling through Slack in the middle of the night. Slack is the first thing you pick up when you wake up in the morning and read through those messages. Again, those are not great signs of a healthy relationship with these tools. And I actually don't think the tools are the problem. I think it's more, as I said, our relationship we have with them and how we use them for communication in the workplace. So I'm going to give you 5 tips that I use personally to kind of manage like any restlessness or anxiety that I may feel when using Slack. So my first tip is turn off all notifications, like literally all notifications. I would actually recommend, don't even put Slack on your personal phone. And when I say turn off all notifications, I mean the noise that Slack makes. I think it gives a lot of anxiety. The bouncing when you get a new message, like turn off all those notifications. They are not helping you. My second tip is figure out how to tame your tone. Have you ever received a message and you're like, how is this past? Like, I feel like they're saying something, but they're not saying it. And imagine if it was you communicating to someone else. You need to figure out how to really tame your tone. I am a big lover of Grammarly. So I use Grammarly to check my tone. It tells me how I'm communicating, whether it sounds professional, whether it sounds angry, whether it sounds happy, whether it sounds optimistic. And I believe that's something really important, especially for you as a person communicating. Taming your tone is very, very, very important. Number 3 is Slack is instant. It's instant messaging, but your response doesn't have to be instant. Think of back in the days not that back in the days, when we had emails. An email will come in and you have 2 hours at least to reply. And I apply the same rule to Slack. So I will look at a message, I'll think about it, and then when I'm ready to respond, I will respond within the right time frames. Number 4 is I am a big believer in having physical conversations for like very sensitive topics. And if you can't have a physical conversation, video calls are always available. So the first point of call for like conversations, especially if you're doing it like in a public channel, first have that conversation with the person that's affected. I think that personal communication for sensitive information is very, very important, and even just having that video call, and then after that just following it up with a Slack message. I'm a big advocate for having videos on. It really helps to like just understand, like, read body language. So have that have that video on if it's really available to you. Step number 5, and this is my final one, get work done. Like, Slack is a communication tool. I don't think teams should be living on Slack. I mean, products, I work with engineers. A product person should be doing product related activities, whether it's spending time with your users, whether it's, doing product discovery, whether it's reading. Spend time getting work done versus scrolling through Slack and figuring out, oh, do I need to respond, or was I mentioned? And maybe have a time when you go through Slack at a certain time of the day and respond to like any messages. But yeah, get work done. If you get the work done, it will reduce like any form of anxiety or how you're feeling towards Slack. So yeah, those are just Wangari's personal 5 tips that I use to manage any anxiety I may have towards like communication tools in the workplace. And I always say it's okay to feel this way and understand what it looks like to have this issue and know what the solution is. I'd love to hear from you if you have any other suggestions or practical tips that you use to manage your Slackxiety, as I call it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, Kwaheri.